Land of Talk is a band and performing moniker spearheaded by Elizabeth Powell. Based in Montreal at one point, Powell spent her formative years as a musician in Guelph, Ontario, playing in bands and establishing herself as a strong, outspoken, and compelling songwriter. Her latest Land of Talk record is called Life After Youth, which came out in the spring of 2017 via both Saddle Creek and Dine Alone Records. And Powell has been playing solo shows of late, including a Pay What You Can afternoon show in Guelph on January 28th at the Red Papaya, which has prompted us to catch up for a conversation. Part of the Entertainment One podcast network and sponsored by Pizza Trocadero, The Bookshelf, Planet Bean Coffee, and Granddad's Donuts, this is the 377th episode of Creative Control, featuring Elizabeth Powell of Land of Talk, with your host, me, Vish Khanna. Hi, Liz. How's it going?
Hey, Vish. I'm doing pretty well. How are you?
I'm very well. It's nice to have you on the show.
Nice to be here.
Where are you right now?
I am in Orillia, Ontario, my first hometown. I consider Guelph my second hometown.
Yes, I didn't mean to mischaracterize your origins.
No, that's perfect. That's perfect. That is where I cut my teeth, and that's where musically I kind of became my musical self. So, yeah, I attribute Guelph I attribute the Guelph waters to my musical career.
And so you're from Orillia originally?
Yes, that's a mouthful. Yeah, just outside Orillia, Mount St. Louis, where I don't know if anybody is familiar with the Mount St. Louis Moonstone ski hills. That's out in the countryside. That's where I was born and raised.
I've heard.
Now I live in the city proper.
You live in the city. I've heard that those are the ski hills that are desirable for Ontarians. Like, we don't have mountains here, for those who don't know.
We don't. We have bumps. Yeah.
We have bumps, and people from Quebec or Alberta, when they see what we consider ski mountains, like we have a hill here that we call Blue Mountain.
Yes.
And they laugh. They laugh at the mountain. How is that a mountain? They say. Yeah.
It's a misnomer, but you know what? I took up snowboarding when I was younger, and they have great parks and great pipes and stuff. So we kind of tended just to do all that. It actually makes you more of a thrill seeker and a risk taker when you don't have the mountains, because you end up having to make your own thrills. So I think we took more risks and did more like off trail, going through the trees. I would get stuck in tree wells, and I smashed myself enough times to I don't do it anymore, but I think I chipped my coccyx once.
Oh, I've done that.
It still hurts to sit down, for a prolonged period of time.
I'm sorry to hear that, but I mean, I have children. I like to let them get hurt. Wait, that didn't come out right. I want them to do well. I don't want them to get hurt, but I think it builds resilience, and, it's like Pavlovian. If you do that, you're going to get hurt. You don't want to be, you need to know that it's going to hurt.
Exactly. No, you don't want to have the whole world be a padded room, and you don't want to helicopter them. So yeah. Good on you.
Yeah. So you left Orillia. How old were you when you left Orillia?
It was so traumatic. It was grade 4 going into grade 5, and I had to say goodbye to all my friends. But then I was so welcomed I had such a warm welcome to my new friends at École Saint René Goupil. I went at the French school. So yeah, grade 5 was my introduction to Guelph.
Grade 5 French immersion. That's quite the transition. Or were you doing French immersion in Orillia?
Yep, Samuel de Champlain over to Saint René Goupil.
Nice. And that has paid off handsomely.
It actually did. And then moving to Montreal, it helped me get jobs and work as a server in Montreal, and work as even on doing translations for toy commercials for Spin Master Toys. I oversaw the translation sessions. So it actually did. It did help. And I got to and I can be well versed in both languages, and I get to hang out with, the francophone musicians, and I even have a song that's a bit of French in it, and it doesn't seem to offend too many francophones. So
Right.
yeah, I love it. I'm really grateful that I was exposed to that.
Well, you mentioned all the daredevil stunts that you participated in when you were growing up in Orillia, but what about a musical community? There's there for a while there, the Mariposa Festival, and it might still be there. It was there, I believe.
Yeah, yep, it's back. Yep, and it's going strong. There's a new artistic director, Liz Scott, and she's doing great things. She's booking all sorts of dope bands. So yeah, I'm fingers crossed. We're hoping that we get in there this summer, and also that's an accessible venue for my dad to go to. So
right,
that's a lot of my incentive is just like, let's get dad out to this show.
How's your dad doing?
So cool. He's doing great, and then sometimes not so great. But in terms of where he was 4 years ago, great.
Yeah.
So the winter is tough. He can't get out and just do that little walk around the block that seems to give him the energy and the strength that and just that morality boost. So the winter's a bit tough, but I mean, his friends pick him up, take him to the Y. He can walk on the treadmill for 5 minutes sometimes. They take him around the track. I mean, his friends and the community really make sure that he's up and out. And he says now he sees himself more as this sage that's just meditating on a mountain. Like he can spend lots of hours just in this meditative state, and he seems to really enjoy that. So
yeah.
And he's really good he watches films and then he breaks them down for me and gives me these great reviews. And I asked him if I could film him sometimes, just doing some of his film critiquing. So look out for that. I might be posting some of those because they're just, he's brilliant, and he's got such a sensitive outlook, and I love hearing him speak on things. So yeah, he's doing great, but physically he's still mad at his right arm because it's not doing anything. He says it's just not, it's not obeying what he wants. It's not doing what he wants it to do. But yeah, I'm lucky he's around, and I'm lucky that I get to hang out with him.
No, it's great. And for those who don't know, I think you've been open about this. Your father suffered a stroke, right?
Yeah, he was in the hospital he had a quadruple bypass, and then the next day he stroked out in the hospital. And that's kind of the only instance where you're not allowed to administer the clot buster, like that stroke, the medicine.
Mm-hmm.
So he ended up they had to let him stroke, like they brought him to the ICU and they just had to let him stroke out.
Oh, I see.
Fully. So he's left-handed though. So the lucky thing is that he stroked out on his left side of his brain. So he's right side paralyzed. So he's hemiplegic, but he still has the use of his left hand, and he can still stand up and walk with a cane. It's compromised, but he can get to the bathroom and get around a bit.
Right.
So he's better off than a lot of people, and he made it. So that's also a bonus.
Yeah,
so,
well, no, it's heartening to hear, and it's heartening to hear your words about it. I was going to say, I mentioned the daredevil stuff. I went on a tangent about Mariposa. Were your parents and your family, were they supportive of you in your interest in music? And did you have an interest in music when you were growing up in Orillia? Because I know you as a Guelph music person, but did you have music in Orillia for yourself there?
Yeah, so the music, as far as I remember it, and from what my mom retells, is that, as growing up with my brother, he's 3 years older, so he was already showing like lots of just creative, manifestations. He would just always be running around doing characters, very comedic stuff, very physical comedy. He was in dance lessons very early on, and I kind of followed suit. And we had this great ballet teacher in town, Miss Fagan, and she was awesome. She taught my mom ballet. She taught generations of people ballet. And I think she was around like 85 when she taught me. And she taught my brother. My brother ended up going on to National Ballet School and Quinty School of Dance. And so he kind of ended up, and now he's an incredible actor, stage actor at Shaw Festival.
Oh, wow.
So if anybody's ever, I think it's his 10th or 11th season. He's incredible. And I ended up kind of in the more musical realm because apparently it was listening to Stéphane Grappelli on CBC, jazz violinist, folk violinist, virtuosic, amazing musician. And I think that's when my mom said I really got into the idea of playing violin. I really wanted to sound like that. So she enrolled me in lessons with Suzuki teacher Mayumi Kumagai, who just lives down the street from me still.
Oh.
And she's still teaching students. So it was the violin that got me into it. and it was Stefan Grappelli. Look him up, everybody, if you don't know. It's just he just makes the violin sing.
Okay.
And and then I ended up just kind of composing my own stuff, being I never practiced, so that was, much to my teacher's chagrin, but I was constantly on the compositional streak. And then, always making up songs on my own, but never performing. And it wasn't until moving to Guelph and meeting up with my friend Melissa McFadden, with whom I went to school, and her dad taught her how to play acoustic guitar, and we would meet up at her place and write songs. And it was after a fallout with our friend Michael Crozier, who I guess we were kind of mean with him, or we wanted him to buy, he had a little bit of money from his allowance, and we wanted him to buy us a chocolate bar at the volleyball tournament that was actually at University of Guelph. And he wouldn't buy it for us, or I forget what, he didn't have his money, but we were just awful. We were like, well, Mike, then you can't hang out with us. Anyway, we felt really badly. And we went home that night and we wrote a song called We're Sorry, Mike. And we sang it to him on the phone.
Oh, that's sweet.
And yeah, it goes a little something like this. Oh, we're sorry, Mike. Please forgive us. Oh, we're sorry, Mike. We were wrong. Money was all that mattered. Your friendship was gone. I don't know. And then it goes on and on and on.
Wow.
But it was a full song.
Wow.
But then I think we sang that song like a month later to another friend and just changed the name. But so that was our first songwriting. Our intro to songwriting was like an apology song.
Well, I hope Mike's listening. Is Mike still? Where's Mike? No,
Michael Crozier, where are you? I feel like I think he knows about Land of Talk, and I think we've even had like Facebook exchanges or something over the years.
Yeah.
Anyway, shout out to Mike Crozier.
Okay, so you said something there I found interesting. You were in the Suzuki school. First of all, is that the thing where your parents have to play with you?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
They're supposed to learn with you, right?
Every lesson, they have to learn with you, or at least just be present with you. And they don't just tell you to go practice. They end up they take notes at the lessons and they get very involved. I think in the beginning they need to hold the Cracker Jack box under their chin with the ruler. They don't give you a violin in the beginning because you're so young. It's like a foregone conclusion. You'll trash it. Right. So I think they kind of learn the postures and they learn all the basics and just the principles of it. But after that, so it's kind of like they're more present guides instead of, I think the Royal Conservatory is very much just like student teacher, like a closed circuit. Yeah. But yeah, so yeah, I was always out at University of Guelph every Saturday from like 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. doing all of the orchestra and private lessons, and my mom would always be in tow, and all the parents would always be there. So yeah. But
you said something there, because we've already established that you were the daredevil in Aurelia. Yeah. You have a rebellious streak. You wouldn't practice. You didn't like practicing. Why didn't you like practicing, do you think?
I think it was probably an attention span thing, and maybe I just loved my ideas more than like Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. Like maybe I just got a little too big for my britch. I thought I could maybe do better than Bach. I don't know. Right.
You had your own ideas and you wanted to follow your own path. Is that? Yeah. Would you say is that common for you? Is that the way you are? Do you have an analysis of yourself?
Yeah, I only know that from the way people react to it. Like in my mind, I feel like that's just what people do in life. Like you do your own thing and you must. But I realize now as I'm getting older, not so much wiser, but as I'm getting older and I'm just sort of getting kind of beaten down more from like people sort of looking at me with the hairy eye, kind of looking at you sideways, going, who the heck do you think you are? Mind you, you know what? Also, my privilege and like being white and being like that also allowed me a lot of freedom to do whatever I wanted. Like I very much am aware now that like I could be free and I could do all those things because, getting looked at sideways isn't really going to stop you from doing a lot. I'm sure, I just feel like I'm realizing now I was afforded a lot of freedoms and was very just ignorant to just how privileged I was. So and am. So that also plays into it. Like I have to also, Guelph was very white. Like that's just the demographic. Oh, I'm aware. It's not, I'm aware. So
I'm still here.
Obviously, I'm still here.
I'm still there. I'm still here.
Still kicking it, beast.
Still the brown guy in Guelph. No, there's a few more of us actually, but. I grew up in Cambridge, and I think I had a similar, like when I left, I had this myopic view of it as being this kind of conservative town. We needed to break out of it to find ourselves, and I moved to Guelph, where it felt like freedom was encouraged, artistic freedom, creative freedom. Did you have that experience when you arrived here, or when you realized? Did you at any point as a child? You say grade 4, grade 5. Did you kind of figure out Guelph would kind of bolster your rebellious spirit?
Yes, I was in tight with Tom Kiefer. I ended up getting arrested when I was 14 for spray painting on was it Gordon Gordon Street, right up to the university.
Yeah.
Remember they cut down all the huge, beautiful 200-year-old trees, and Tom and I and a bunch of other activists went out and spray painted on the road, save our trees, and then whoop whoop. We ended up getting, the cops ended up arresting. Do you remember all that?
Yeah, totally.
They arrested, yeah. And I was protected under the Young Offenders Act. People took to the Guelph Mercury, all these people wrote in, and because my mom ended up coming to pick me up and saw all the cop cars, so she said, well, if you're arresting my daughter, you have to arrest me too. This is ridiculous. So she ended up getting caught up in it, and people were writing in saying, like, either some people were saying, woohoo, you go, Val, like, you teach your daughter what's right, and teach her how to act, like be an activist. And then some people were just saying tisk tisk, like what a horrible way of parenting, like just hilarious. But the fact that there was even a forum, and even like just the fact that there was a scene there, and an activist scene and an activist spirit, and staging all like the walkouts. I mean, that's how Tom got expelled from
that's
schools.
Right. Yeah.
So and that's how I met Beth Meisen, and then Pussy Shoot, like Michelle. Oh my gosh, Michelle Thorson, like she was a huge influence on just my awareness, my feminist, like my budding feminist spirit. We had these, and Magali Meager. Yeah. They started this girl gang called Smug, Smelly, Messy, Unkempt Girls. And I remember the sticker, I put it on my violin. We had a sticker with sort of this like superhero looking woman with a laser gun straddling the title, like the lettering that said, like kill your local rapist, or like it was a very like militant feminist spirit happening. And I definitely wouldn't be the person I am today had I not moved there. Like I'm so grateful and so happy that I did end up going to Guelph. Like it was such a traumatic tear from my home and all of my beginnings, but man, it was so good for me. And it helped me, become the I guess the outspoken feminist boss ass biche that I am today.
Is it simplistic to draw a line between all that activity you're just describing and your discovery or love of punk?
Oh no. Oh, well, the love of punk, I can remember like Shotmaker, Minnow. I guess it was because of that scene that then I embraced. Yeah, I guess I was. There was the St. George's dances too, which kind of helped. I guess like peak my love of like harder music. Yeah. And then
Guelph had a really rich post-hardcore kind of community.
Yeah. And Minnow, oh my gosh. Like watching Robin Lynn play bass blew my mind, and how he used to just like face his bass rig. Yeah. And then the Shotmaker, I think it was Watershed Shotmaker shows. I can remember being so inspired by the bass player that's when after babysitting for a summer, I went to a pawn shop in King City and bought my first bass, which was fretless bass, because I thought that it was like the logical, or like the closest jump from a violin. It's fretless, just like a violin. I had a facility on the fretboard. Yeah. So that was my kind of my first step into like, oh, I'm gonna plug in and I'm gonna be badass. And then I can remember just the posture of the way, I forget his name, the bass player from Shotmaker. He used to like hunt, just his posture, and you could always see his underwear hanging out of the top of his pants, and you could never really, and that I was practicing in the mirror once, and I remember my dad came in, I was like on the bed doing that. He was like, oh, Lizzie, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm punk rock, Dad.
I will begin it soon. Make each page I turn, a page I'm in it. Reveal me, son. I will forgive it. it soft, make it something that matters to me. Rewind the time, I will begin it soon. Make each page I turn a page a minute. There's no point in going back when a masterpiece is crumbling.
From there, did that get you into actually starting bands? Because I would have seen you play in a few bands at that point.
Nope, it was always somebody else. It was like Andrew Collins, who I remember we used to go up to his place after school and listen to music and just play around and jam. And it was the Valentines, like James Ogilvy and Evan Gordon and me. Like, it was always other people's bands that would invite me in. Surf Rock Explosion, like Bonnie, what?
Right.
All those. So it was always like, oh, come on, like, join us. And because we were so few, like, there weren't actually, for Guelph, we did have a lot of women, like, representing. But I think, yeah, there was just this inclusiveness and this people kind of took to, and like the Jimmy Guthrie and all his kind of basement jams that would happen, like the Stuart Gunn Band. And I remember the Rock Sack being just a real hub for inspiring and encouraging creativity and music. And I just remember I was always really supported and really, like, I got really held up and really, like, uplifted by that whole community. So, yeah. And then also Fugazi. I think hearing Fugazi for the first time, it just changed my life. So that too.
Did you see any of their Guelph shows?
I never saw their Guelph shows. I ended up seeing them, funnily enough. I went all the way to, I was living in Galway for a semester with my friend Lauren.
Yeah.
And they were playing in Dublin. And I took the bus to Dublin and I watched them play. I have the poster up. I grabbed the photocopied black and white poster. So that was Sunday, May 9th, 1999, Temple Bar Music Center. Doors at 7:30 p.m. Tickets £8. Yeah, Curved Street, Temple Bar.
99.
So I have that up.
Wow.
Yeah, isn't that
Okay.
crazy?
That is crazy. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, because they famously played a couple of shows here, and I don't know if you know this, but the first show or set that I ever saw at the Hillside Festival, the first time I ever went, was you.
Yeah.
Playing, I think it was you playing on the Sun stage with maybe Simon Osborne and either Jamie Thompson or Nathan Lore playing drums.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yes. Holy moly.
And I think you were Liz Powell at that point.
Yeah, totally. And that would have been the summer before university, because I had made cassette tapes called Belle Epoque. Jim Guthrie recorded me in his living room on 2-track, and I made cassette tapes to try and raise funds for my tuition.
Right.
Which it wasn't even a drop in the bucket. But still, I remember that summer. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was remarkable. And I mean, I'd seen you a bunch by that
Whoa.
point, and I was a big fan. But I mean, how did you get from all of that to Land of Talk, if we can jump ahead? Do you remember? Because all of this, I can tell, if for people who have been following Land of Talk, I would hope that they can say now, oh, all of these things we've been talking about inform some aspects of Land of Talk. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely. If anything, yeah, Land of Talk should have happened right. Like, if anything, I didn't need to go to university. Like, I went to music school, and I just found that it crushed my spirit. And I'm not a good student anyway, and I wasn't great with time management. And I was dealing with all these, like, feelings of just being in a new city, like being in Montreal after having been in such a supportive, like, insular community. That was like a rough go for me. So I really just should have, you can't just create Land of Talk, but I would have wanted to have just been in a rock band right away. But had I not gone to Concordia, I wouldn't have met Bucky.
Yeah.
And Bucky's the reason why, I think for a while in Montreal, I got caught up with some, I'm going to just say it, like some slimy, just like not a great vision, like producers who just had the wrong idea. They saw a woman, a young woman, and they kind of took it from, like, that's all they saw. It was pretty, again, like a myopic one, a one-dimensional view of what I could do. And kind of they romanticized just one, like they kind of amplified one aspect. And I let it happen because I thought that was a good idea. And I ended up going to LA and trying to do this more solo, slick thing. And I let that get too far. And it takes a while to kind of, but I was always active in the music scene and always writing my own songs. But it wasn't until Richie Perry, love you, Richie. He probably is listening.
Some people might know Richie from his band Arcade Fire.
Yeah.
Among others. Yeah.
Yeah, among others. He just sent me anyway, that's really funny. We just had a really funny interaction. He was like, oh my God, I just had a dream that I was chasing you around a high school and I was dressed in a pink kimono. It was really funny. But he, I guess, had a tape he had my cassette tape because I had played with Mikey Feuersack. I played a couple runs in Ontario with Snail House.
Yeah.
Love you, Mikey. And we played in Ottawa at Little Bighorn, at Dave Drave's studio. I think it's Little Bighorn.
That's right, yeah.
And an outside concert, and Richie bought the cassette. And then Richie was in the music program, so I'd see him in the hallways, and he was always really cool with me, and we became friends. And he somehow got the tape to Bucky. Bucky and Chris McCarran heard it, and then one night I get a call, and I wrote a song about it called Got a Call. And I got a call from them being like, Lizzie, let's plug these songs in. Let's rock them out. Like, let's make your solo songs. Like, let's amplify you. So really, like, their whole motivation was just like, let's take your songs and make them louder. Like,
yeah,
let's bring them out. Let's get outside of yourself, kind of thing. And so again, like, everywhere I am, like where I am now has never just been because, like, for as much as like the outspoken and like really kind of bullheaded, just like plow right through, head down, do my own thing kind of person I am, I also am like very reliant. I'm very reliant on other people bolstering me and and believing in me. So like none of this would have happened had everyone along the way said, hey, do it, like do more of that, or like get louder, like be more. And I can't thank them enough for that. Like, I'm really grateful for everyone. I'm sure I'm missing, I'm not mentioning a lot of people, but it's because everybody, like, maybe I'm a bit of a vampire. I just suck it all out of people, but
I think we're all informed by the people around us. That's fair to say.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I remember when Life After Youth came out, there was a lot of information, I suppose, or I was going to say noise, but there was a little bit of noise about the fact that it was your first record in something like 7 years, I believe, when it was released. Is there, and I know you had to speak about this gap and this absence, and I feel like we've alluded to some of the reasons why you took a break, so to speak. Do you have perspective on this even further now that it's been, a few months since the record actually came out? Do you have some perspective on that break you took and what it meant to come back even?
Yeah, I think I never intended on it being a break. I remember just kind of reeling from a personal breakup and reeling from a lot of noise happening in Montreal about like becoming known as just as like Land of Talk became my identity. And I thought that it was affecting and informing the ways, like my relationships and maybe the way people were seeing me. I felt like maybe it was eclipsing my selfhood, like who I was, and maybe it was getting in the way. It was like impeding a bit of personal growth that I think needed to happen. Like I thought maybe I needed something more fulfilling or something more substantial that wasn't always just like me performing, giving myself away, being on stage, literally, like always on stage, always impressive, like and funny and entertaining. Like I just kind of felt like there's another side to me that needs I need to pay attention to that, and it's the side of me that like why I picture myself at 80 years old, like on a porch. Like I'm like, how am I going to get to that person? Like there's another kind of thing I need to cultivate, and I didn't know what that was, but there was this other side kind of that I felt I needed to feed, and I was again reeling from a breakup. So I kind of just headed for the hills, or the bumps, literally. Headed for the bumps, and I thought maybe it was just to like lick my wounds for a bit and write this solo record. Like I had the best intentions, But then I think left to my own devices, literally, it like died. The actual laptop, I still stare at it every day. It's dead. It had all. I think I had 16 fleshed out like songs that were to become solo songs, and the laptop just it ate them up.
Oh no!
I used GarageBand. I don't know. All the files were gone. So.
You mean like the computer would turn on, but your files were just gone?
Yeah, the computer turns on. And I took it to Downtown Computers here. I had friends look at it. They're gone. Like the files are gone, like wiped. I don't understand. But so then I just felt really defeatist, and I thought, well, I guess it's meant to be. And this is where other people come in. Is like when I moved back to Aurelia, I didn't have community. I was living in isolation. I wasn't like, and I didn't even talk to like best friends of mine from Guelph. Like I kind of threw the baby out with the bathwater, and I don't know how else to explain it. Like I just I turned my back on everything. Very extreme way of doing things, but I felt like it was necessary. I felt like I needed to somehow get real or like get back to myself, but it ended up being like, I just kind of got lost in that journey of trying to get back to myself. I was like, then I'm nothing without my people, and I'm nothing without my community, and that felt weird. So I just kind of stopped doing music altogether. Like, I know that sounds strange because it was the only thing that ever made me happy, but yeah. Oh, okay. Sorry, that was the timer.
It's probably Richie. It's probably just Richie calling us.
It's Richie going like, it wasn't a pink kimono, it was purple. No, but yeah. So there definitely was a personal, something like a break that happened in my mind, like a break from what I identified with and how I saw myself, and then I I'm also a visual artist, and I ended up painting and creating and drawing in that sense. And I ended up doing projects with my dad. We would do renovation projects and contracting work. And so I was building sheds and doing carpentry and building fences and doing like tongue and groove stuff like siding and just kind of apprenticing.
Oh.
And then my dad and I would dream about that. Like, okay, Dad, when you retire, it's going to be Powell and Daughters, like our little contracting company. So and then I kind of got into that and thought, oh yeah. And then there was this little house that this woman was selling. It was a crazy, amazing deal. And I totally put everything into it. And I bought this little place thinking that my dad and I would fix it up. And anyway, and then he had a stroke, which was crazy. Like the day after, actually, we put in the kitchen countertop, and we put some jacks in the basement. And the next day he went into the hospital, and then 3 days after that he had a stroke. So it was like, I kind of put my eggs into that basket. And then his stroke became or the way I dealt with his stroke was by turning back to me. I returned to music for solace, and I would return to being more of a listener of music, which I realized I really wasn't. Like right. I was always creating, and I just developed this. I fell in love with music all over again and started creating and bringing it to Dad, and he would just kind of give me pointer. He would be like, "Whoa, I really like that. I like the repetition. I like the groove. I like the beat." Like he really liked the more hypnotic stuff, and then from that came This Time. And then the lyrics from This Time kind of, so it's like everything informs everything, eh? Like
yeah.
No, it's pretty beautiful, pretty poetic. I can't deny that. It's everything that happened. Some of it's been crappy, some of it's been awesome, and but it's all been life. And like, how lucky are we?
I agree.
To even experience it. So I'm super grateful. That's been the major takeaway from all of this. It's like super grateful every day, you know? Even on the bad days, you're like, I'm grateful I'm having a bad day. It's a day.
It's a day. We're actually having a day.
It's an effing day.
It's an actual day. Yeah. So
that's where Land of Talk came from, and then that's what happened, and then that's why it took so long for me to get back. But we actually recorded Life After Youth over Christmas 2015. It just took a long time for it to come out. So in my mind, it's like I was touring with Land of Talk until 2011, and then really I only took a 4-year break. But I get it. From the outside perspective, it's like, oh yeah, it looks like 7 years, but to me it felt like half of that. But
yeah, the general public doesn't know about like production and artwork timelines and all that stuff.
And nor should they. Yeah, that's like
it's just what we see, and as it turns out, you did have a story. It wasn't just that stuff. You had stuff going on that is beyond that sort of stuff. I mentioned that you're playing. Well, you mentioned that you had intended to write a solo record, and I mentioned that you're playing at least. Well, how many solo shows are you playing? Would you say?
Ooh. So I'm playing the Guelph one. I just played one. I just played two in Aurelia. One last Friday, a fundraiser for Teens on the Edge. We made $1,500.
Oh, nice job.
And I just played a pop-up show with one of I'm a diehard fan of this guy, Miller Del Rey. He's just moved back to Aurelia. He is amazing. You can't find him anywhere. I keep asking him to put his stuff on Bandcamp, put himself out there. But I put on a show just to facilitate having him play. Like, I wanted to open for him, but he wouldn't allow it. So we put on a little pop-up surprise show, and it was sold out within like 4 days. So did that, and then playing at the Red Papaya this coming Sunday. And then I'm doing this 4-day run with Girlpool in Brooklyn, Boston, DC, Philly. And then there's some other cool stuff coming down the pipes that I'm not allowed to announce yet. But I'm really putting the solo stuff forward. I think it's great just for my own chops. Like, it puts me out there just to help hone my skills as a guitar player. And I'm road testing some new songs solo, so that we can then start doing that with the band. But I think that, so it's kind of selfishly for me, I get to brush up on my performance and get some of these songs out and into the world, and then we'll workshop them with the band. And
Okay, so
that's what the next record's going to be, is all these songs that I'm working on now.
That's amazing. And you're already, how many songs in would you say you are at this point?
Well, let's say footnotes, if only. Say hi to the kids. It ain't right. 1, 2, 3, 4. I've got about, the new one, Now You Want to Live in the Light, 5. And then fucking Nope, 6. So 7 already, like, where I would be happy with just demoing them at this point. And then there's about 7 other ones that are floating around.
Nice. That's amazing.
A strong chorus here or a strong verse there. And sometimes they end up, I can match them. Like, sometimes I'm writing 6 songs at once, and really they end up being 2 fully fleshed out songs. When you, like, sometimes it's very this like disparate, seems like backwards way of doing it, but it all ends up, they're all informing the same, like, it's all kind of going to the same record, and the pieces the songs kind of fall into place as I get closer to the record. It's a pretty cool process.
So your intention with Life After Youth was to write a solo record, and you ended up making a band record. It sounds like your intention here is to make a band record. Are you reversible?
And maybe it'll be a solo record. Yeah, who knows?
You might be reversible. So something might change.
Exactly. I'm malleable. I'm into it. I just go with the flow.
Going with the flow. Well, it's amazing that you're working, and we're so happy. Oh, and you're playing in Guelph with James Gordon and Sons. I mean, do you have anything you want to say about these people?
Just that I love them with all my heart. And Evan, are you listening right now? I love you. I sent him some of my electro. Oh, that's something I didn't mention. I was doing some electro stuff under the moniker Vagwegian, and I sent him 2 of those tracks, and he thought that was really funny. And there was another one that I sent him, just a jokey Christmas song that I did a couple years back for my friend.
Right. And
it was called "Jesus, I Maxed Out Your Visa Card," and. Yeah, he has. I haven't heard from him from that one, so maybe it was offensive. But
no, I don't think he would be offended by that.
But yeah, no. Those are my people. Those are. It's funny because their parents are named Val and James, and my mom is named Val, and my dad's name is James, and they hang out all the time. It's really funny. So, like, they're best friends, and they have the same names, and they all have really cool kids. So.
Well, it's so nice that you have these connections, these deep connections to Guelph. It's amazing.
Oh, yeah, it's amazing for me. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. Okay, Liz, where can people go to learn more about Land to Talk? Where do you want to send them? Because I know you're on various things.
You know what's funny? I basically, it's like exclusively a lot of just my social media presence is Instagram, because I just love that format. And then I always just end up sharing it to Facebook and Twitter, but I'm always on Instagram. It is, I'll have to approve you, because I have had, unfortunately, stalkers and threats and
Right.
all those people that don't like empowered women, they tend to gang up on people like me. So it's blocked, but I will definitely accept you if you're cool.
Okay. All right.
If you're respectful and so yeah, that's Instagram, Land of Talk Music. And I am on Facebook too, obviously, but that's just most of my activity is Instagram.
Okay, Instagram it is. Is there one single song from Life After Youth that you would recommend we play right now?
Okay. Yeah, I think Macabre that's the last song on the album, and it just I'd say that one.
Any particular reason why that came to mind?
It's funny. It hit me the other day. It's just a really powerful song. And in terms of the way that it came together in the studio, and the outro of that song just moves me, because I remember Jace Lassick and Olga Gorias, that's of Besnard Lakes fame, another incredible band. Please check them out. Mm-hmm. We record all of our records at Break Glass Studios, which is Besnard Lake studio. And I remember when that song kind of just, when it came to, and when we finally kind of came into fruition and we played through it, it's just something lifted. And it's like, that was like the push through to the next kind of stage in my life. It was kind of ushered in by that song. So it's kind of the soundtrack. It's the last track of the record, but it's kind of like sets the tone for just the next part of my life.
What's next?
It's a pretty positive. It's positivity, and it's all about gratitude. So yeah.
Well, it's a beautiful record, and this seems like a lovely choice to go out on. So this is Macabre by Land of Talk from Life After Youth. Liz, this was a real pleasure to have you on this show. I thank you for this, and I wish you the best of luck with everything going forward.
Likewise, Vish, and you too, man. Take care.
Slow down, you move too fast. Never liked you working so hard. The devil's in heat and I got your minds made up. So hard, and now I want a reason why. Way to cut us out. Ooh, way to cut us out. For this life I would leave it, but oh, I miss the sky and the sea. Damage to my eyes, I won't see it. Don't know what you're missing in me. Don't know what you, don't know what you, don't know what you, don't know what you. Oh, I miss the sky and the sea. Damage to my eyes, I won't see it. You're missing.
Special thanks to Liz Powell of Land of Talk for being on this, the 377th episode of Creative Control, which is part of the Entertainment One podcast network and is available on all your finer podcast platforms and things like YouTube as well. Find the show, Creative Control, and it will find you back. I don't know what I meant there. Anyway, if you can't find an episode you're looking for, or you wish to learn more about me or sign up for my regularly scheduled newsletter, please visit vishkhanna.com. You can like Creative Control with Vishkhanna on Facebook, follow us on Twitter at VishCreative, or follow me at Vishkhanna. And you can listen to a radio show version of Creative Control on Wednesdays at noon Eastern Standard Time around the world at cfru.ca, or on an actual radio at 93.3 FM if you're in or near Guelph. And you know something? You just did listen to a version of the show that aired on CFRU, because Liz and I conducted that interview live on the radio, live on the air. I just grabbed it and then I gave it to you as a podcast. And we didn't even talk about... We talked about so much Guelph stuff. We didn't talk about CFRU, which I know is integral for her, but I wasn't maybe on my game. I don't know. I was just going with the flow. I just forgot all about CFRU. Anyway, thank you. I would never really forget about CFRU. Again, cfru.ca for more information about this wonderful station. Also, please consider visiting patreon.com/Creative Control to make a flexible monthly donation to keep this podcast going. The community radio show is fine, but the podcast could use some money. So please, patreon.com/Creative Control. All right, thanks to all my sponsors for their support of this show, and thanks to you for listening. Please continue to listen and spread the word about Creative Control. Download episodes, subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to the show, and also rate and review things positively. That seems to help. I don't know exactly why, but it does. I mean, I guess I know why. Anyway, please continue doing whatever it is you're doing to interact with the show. It's much appreciated. I'll be back with more just as soon as is humanly possible. I will talk to you very soon. Goodbye for now.